Hello, everybody. It's June 13th, 2025. Yes, that is Friday the 13th. Yes, it's Friday the 13th, one of those witchy poo holidays. But we've got a special guest here today that we're going to interview, and this is Kevin. Kevin is a 55-year-old single male. He was adopted into a working class family that found little value in academics, while that's where his strengths were. He was abused nonstop until he was able to create separation from his adoptive parents. And he believes that he's been targeted since at least the late 1990s and likely earlier. And now that he's attempting to take care of those his abusive adoptive father in his old age. I am a musician. I enjoy philosophy, physics, art, film, comedy, plain old thinking, and most things that challenge the mind. I have rheumatoid arthritis. We can talk about that maybe off record because of TheyTube. TheyTube doesn't like giving advice on these issues. So Kevin, welcome.
Yes,
I'm so glad to be
thank you
in.
so much.
Yes, I'm so glad to have you here. And
Right.
just as an FYI, Kevin wrote and is probably going to update a video on my channel called I have it listed as Memory Revelations of Method, which is quite brilliant, about his thought process, how he theorizes about methods of defeating them and their technology. So Kevin, why don't you give us a little more update on your earliest targeting experiences, how it's progressed through the years, what you're doing to protect yourself, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. And thanks again for having me. I was on David's channel before, and you guys, I really want to tell the truth here. I've been careful with it because a lot of the things I have to say are going to strain credibility, but I have a witness. My ex-girlfriend who was there to witness it all has agreed to come and testify in the comment section of the video. So I feel a little more comfortable relating the things that occurred. So we'll get into that over time. But it probably initially started. I'm not really sure because it's murky when those things happen. Here's what I know: I would get strange pains as a youth that continue today, and I feel like it's a sign that they're trying to tell me either that they know that I had those pains when I was young, or that they were the cause of it even at that age. So it depends on how you read the tea leaves, I suppose.
Absolutely. It's certainly possible that they created that and then are instigating it over time to make it appear, it's the plausible deniability, like you were
Right.
born this way.
Yeah. So and then I, honestly, I always had trouble with anxiety and panic attacks, sort of a thing. They never let me have relations with other people without serious things. Like they're giving me anxiety right now, you guys. So normally, well, we'll get into that, but I have, just deal with it best I can. I'm sure a lot of people do. Dealing with other people is hard. I think probably for everybody. And but it's harder for me because they insist on piling on this extra stuff, and at every turn, I had to deal with that, and it was difficult. For example, like in our piano recital, they'd make me have a panic attack as a youth. No matter what the situation, and how I managed to get through life anyway, I don't know. You know what I mean? How I managed to have relationships with women and get and maintain jobs and get through school and all these things. It was despite them, certainly not because of them. They finally revealed themselves probably about less than 10 years ago, I would say, maybe around that point. And initially with like tremors, like in my feet, I could feel shaking. And then it expanded really quickly to severe pain, debilitating. Now I've been bedridden essentially. I can get up and get to the bathroom, and I can get around a little bit, and they give me some days where I can walk around a little bit, but mostly not. So for the most part, I've been bedridden for over a year now. And then before that, it was difficult to get around as well. So, and this has been off and on sort of for the past 10 years. But they hit me with tremendous physical pain. They complicate my rheumatoid arthritis. They let's see here. There's so many symptoms. I need to make a list of the symptoms itself. It would be extremely long because they just bounce around from stabbing pains to close my window here. To noises, to attacks on the brain. That's the thing that bothers me the most, I would say. Clouding my thoughts, but worse than that, probably the psychotic feeling. It's nothing violent, but it's just a mixed up brain, and plus there's an added tinge of panic that accompanies it, so it's not something you can settle into.
Right. Do you feel that because you were adopted, and I don't know about the contracts that are signed between the adopted parent and the parent giving up the child or the organization, that there may be some fine line there somewhere that gives the agency the ability to track that adopted child over time and experiment on them. Have you ever considered that?
Yeah, no, it's I don't know much about it. I haven't looked into it too much, but what I have seen is nothing good in the adoptive. But I would say that's true. Period of governmental programs that have to deal with children across the board. I don't think they have a good name. The adoption, I don't really know. I'm really not the person to ask about this, I guess. I can tell you that I feel like they should spend more time placing the children into families that would maybe be more like them when they grow up, that maybe resemble the family that they were pulled from, rather than stick them in some sort of an odd situation that they'll have to struggle with their whole lives and be misunderstood and always have issues.
Yes, I agree with you. So with regard to your situation now, from what I understand, you're actually caring for your adopted father. Is that right?
I am trying, but then when I got here, they hit me really hard, and I ended up becoming bedridden. So now we end up taking care of each other.
Interesting.
Whoever's doing better, helps best they can. It's imperfect, but it's what we have.
Do you feel that your adopted father is targeted also?
Well, I certainly think he's biohacked. I don't think he's targeted in the sense that I am. He's not aware that it's happening, but they are directing his mind, which, I shouldn't say anything, but I can't imagine it's a difficult task, knowing him the way that I do. And he's very apt to emotional outbursts and jumping to conclusions, contempt prior to investigation, etc. So he's essentially a playground for them, especially when it comes to creating a weapon against me.
Yes, and how old of a man is he?
He's 80, I think.
Okay, got you. Okay, so before you were targeted, or you may have been targeted from birth or through adoption, do you have any memories of not being targeted, and what were those like?
Well, as the program, as what they're doing to me has increased, because it's a progressive thing, very much like rheumatoid arthritis, more and more was taken away from me. But there was a time, like I say, I can't remember ever a time being free of the anxiety and the issues that go with social interaction. Now, I don't know how much of that to blame on them and how much of it is just something that occurred naturally because I was abused so badly as a child. But it remains to this day, but I can tell you this, that without them, it wouldn't be there. I think that in a way that the targeting program breeds fearless people, because once they remove, and I suspect that once they remove what they're doing, we're not going to be afraid of anything. Right. You know what I mean?
I agree with that. I absolutely agree. Any fears that I had in the past are completely out the window. I'm very outspoken now, and I might have refrained from speaking out in the past, but now I don't really care. I've discovered that if you stay silent, you're going to be abused exactly the same way, as if you're speaking out. So why not speak out?
Yes, we've been given the blessing of perspective, I think.
Yes, that's a good point. And obviously you have very different perspectives on things. I'm looking at your revelations of method here, and I'll just read a little bit of it for people who have not had the opportunity to listen to the video, so that when you respond, they'll have an idea.
Okay.
They're nudging me to theorize about methods of defeating them in their tech. For the purposes of this discussion, I'll disclose that I'm an individual that would garner this type of attention potentially. I played the whole tape, and this is what I realized. I stumbled on something they had not thought of, that they would ever let me get that out. Conversations with people would spur the targeters to instigate distrust and strong dislike. Online forums would easily censor. This means that I can't go there, period. And my hope that someone that they may not be watching so closely does so successfully. And that's a really good point, because they don't watch every targeted person the way they watch like you or I. Consider that you might be being data mined also.
Yes. Yes. By the way, you're cutting in out on me.
I just heard that. Like I actually heard me repeat my words again. So if for some reason that continues, perhaps you can call me back and we can start up again.
Okay. Okay, data mining was the last thing that you mentioned, and I'm really glad that you mentioned that.
Yes, yes.
Because that's where the big deviation from my current position is, from that document that I gave you, Revelations of Method. At one point, when I wrote that piece, I was under the impression that they were unaware of the gifts that I had, and it went undetected, and I found it to be a chink in their armor, and I found it to be something that had been exposed to limitations of their technology. And that's what I was trying to point out. I wasn't trying to say, hey, look at me and all my gifts. I was trying to say, hey, this exists, and I don't think that they saw that. And so, but I have to say that upon further review, and I've been doing a lot of thinking about it, and I don't have voices. I don't get that. They give me noises, but they do respond real time by when I'm right, and they want to let me know. They suddenly cease and desist what they're doing all of a sudden. It's instantaneous. It doesn't last very long, but it's an answer, and I understand it. Right now, what they're trying to do is make me forget about what I'm talking about. I'm sure you guys understand what I'm saying there. But what it was when I reviewed it now, I realized that okay, look, first of all, let me talk about the things that happened, you guys. And this is where the crazy things are going to happen. Okay. Over a period of 5 or 6 years, I devised, because I'm a thinker, that's all I do with my time is I think of things, and I have like mental traits, like brain traits that allow me to do things see things that others can't. And I'm not trying to brag, I'm just being real. And I have to say this because we need to understand how they data mine us. So what they did was I was in my thought process, and they had me, and they can direct my thoughts to wherever they want me to, and have me, like right now, they have me concentrating on physics and philosophy, and I can't seem to get away from it because that's where they want me. So that's what I do every day. But back then, I was bouncing around from different theories, and because of the gifts that I have they're not dedicated to any one subject. I can apply them to any particular field. I did that, and they mined each one of those theories. Now, the way that we know this is because in that period of time, and this is what my ex is going to testify to, she witnessed it. The reason that we know that they mined is because we were just sitting there watching TV, and the news would come on. Oh, there's a new theory. Scientists, do this, and this is like a couple of years after I came up with this, and this happened 5 or 6 times in a row. I don't believe in coincidence, first of all, but that many of them. You know what I mean? That's ridiculous.
Yes.
So in other words, and they've admitted to me through their little communication that, yeah, that's what they did. You know what I mean? When I didn't even realize they were doing it. And then upon first, examination, I thought that, they didn't even know about it. But now come to realize not only did they know about it, but they exploited it.
Interesting. They're literally picking your brain.
Yeah. So there's that. There's one other thing that's going to be even harder to believe it or not. But she will testify. But she was there, and it happened several times. I was able to see into the future for a period of about 2 years. And it was somewhat detailed oriented, but not too much. And everything that I came out of it. First of all, every time I came out, I was surprised. I was shocked by what I learned. And then and I explained. I told her the things that I saw when I came out of it, and every time everything came true.
Isn't that scary?
Well, I mean, to me, it's like it's a. Here's the thing. I remember reading about a guy, and to me, I've always felt like one measure of intelligence is how far you can see into the future.
Right.
I remember reading about a guy who was able to see accurately 20 years into the future. He was able to consider variables that had not even existed at that point. You know what I mean? It's so mind-boggling to me. It put me in my place at my 2 years. I'm like, it humbled me quite a bit. I'm grateful for the gifts that I have, but no doubt that that was at the period in which they were manipulating me and watching over me. So my guess is that was spurred on by them, because like I say, that happened several times as well.
Right. I've considered that they instigate or place the seed for thinking about these things, or for psychic phenomenon, whatever, and then watch it play out in the lives of the targeted person to see how far you're going to take it, what your thoughts are going to be, because these are literally intellectual property thieves.
Well, the thing about it is I eschew the spotlight, and I don't care for money. My main thing is that in all these theories that I came up with, I would have come up with on my own, probably without them, and they would have gone absolutely nowhere. So to be honest with you, if these things get out there and help people, it sounds crazy, but it might be the best case scenario for the life of the theory and for its ability to help people.
I hear you. So now, are you still looking into the future? Are you still able to do that?
No, that stopped several years back. I haven't tried to now. I felt the tingling. I felt that it was possible, but I don't think they want to harm me. So,
yeah. They would especially prevent that if sometime in the future this program would be exposed and you would be free. They wouldn't want anybody to know that.
Right. No, it's not. Now, I want to make it clear that I don't believe I have psychic ability. This is information that's gleaned from things that are in my subconscious and that sort of a stuff. That sort of a thing.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so you had mentioned in this Revelations of Method to look up quantum computing, that I would find reports on the comparison of the best supercomputers today. So are you saying that a lot of what you were thinking along the lines of a supercomputer? Do you have a high IQ?
Yeah, and they've admitted to trying to nudge me more to think along the lines of artificial intelligence, and they've been very successful in doing so, because it's something I noticed before they even admitted it. So it is a little bit odd. Now, one of the things I want to mention about the document, I don't know that I put this in here, but something far more important than that is something called CBI, Cortical Biological Intelligence, and it's a melding of human brain neurons and CPUs, computer, chips. Are you familiar with this technology?
I'm not specifically familiar with the technology, although you're mentioning it does ring a bell. I mean, I've listened to Sabrina Wallace and things that Elon Musk has been doing, and that's James Giordano.
The only reason I want to mention this is because they weren't able to handle the remote neural monitoring in the way that they're able to now with the instant, immediate kind of reaction that they have. I don't know if everybody's getting that, but I certainly do.
I get that.
And then, and so then also it can understand our brains much better. Not perfectly, but much better than it was able to before. My guess is before the success of the melding of these two, the neurons and the CPU, they needed a human intermediary slowing things down quite a bit, and now that's not necessary.
Okay, so So do you feel that some of what your thought process is, the things that you're thinking, because much of your day is spent, thinking and in your mind and stuff, that your responses are training AI? Do you believe that some targeted people are actually training AI?
I think that we absolutely all are. They're watching the majority of us, and it has enough intelligence to be able to tell when it's wasting its time as well. So it will avoid the people that it feels like will not give it information, and center on the people that it feels like it will.
And how would you say, because you've thought about these things, how would you say that they go about selecting those individuals to focus on and not focus on?
Well, I mean, I think what we see, and then when we think about it, if we're thinking about it as an experiment, then what would logically follow is they would want a cross section of society with a bit of everything thrown in there, so they can see how various cultural influences, genetic influences, genders, etc., are affected by the technologies.
Okay, what do you think that they would use as a control group?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I'm trying to place where a control group would fit in
I
this.
know. I've thought about it. I can't wrap my mind around what the control group would be, who it would be.
I mean, the only control group I can think of would be people who are not being targeted, right?
I would imagine, yes, if they were to select those people not being targeted in the same categories as they choose targeted people.
Well, that being said, too, they can divide up the methodologies that they use and try, well, I'm going to try this with this one and try this with that one. And over, if they do it over several people, they can draw statistics from that and garner a bit of information.
So now, why do you think this information is so important to these? I call them deletes. These scientists. Why is this so important?
Well, one of the things that I noticed, one of the deep dives that I did, I call it a deep dive, when I saw into the future, was how the people at the top, the elites, disassociate themselves from the human aspect. We become numbers to them,
Yes.
and they feel like the things that they have separate them. It hypnotizes them into thinking that they actually are separate, and so there's no emotional content whatsoever. And so the plan is to eliminate the majority of us. The Georgia Guidestones admitted, and we've seen it elsewhere, that they want to kill 15 out of 16 people. They want 500 million people left over, and their plan is to mix races in a way that leaves them with a group of, a general kind of population with an IQ of about 80 to be servants.
Now, historically, this has never worked out well. I mean, if you were to look in the future about their plan, what percentage of their plan do you think is going to actually play out, and will it work? Like the end game, if they were to get rid of 15 out of 16 people, because they're psychopaths, because they have no emotional connection to it, how it's not going to work out for, in my opinion, it's not going to work for them.
No, and this is going to be long. Can you remember that question? Because I got a feeling they're going to make me forget in my answer because it's going to be a
Sure,
little bit lengthy.
sure,
Okay.
yeah,
I've been talking about the Fermi paradox, which is the idea that it's the question about why when the math tells us there's so many stars out there, and math tells us there should be intelligence out there according to, for so many stars. As a result, we should be seeing intelligence out there, but we're not seeing it. What's going on? You know what I mean? And so, but inside the Fermi paradox is a concept of the great filter. And the great filter is something that basically means it's a hurdle that has to be cleared by any organism, which is to essentially not kill themselves off. You know what I mean? Especially in their pursuit of technology. And I think that what we're seeing here is that the elites are doing everything they can to fail that test and to wipe out at that hurdle. we see them trying to pressure World War III, and then I don't know if you're aware of this too, but they built all those bunkers, the elites did.
Yes.
So they're actually all for a nuclear World War III. I don't know that people understand that. They're prepared for it, ready and waiting. This would be an express route to that 500 million mark.
That's true. That's absolutely true. But in my opinion, that some of those underground bunkers are going to fail, and they're going to disappear. I actually had a vision about this back in New Jersey, and I didn't know I was targeted. I was just sitting at my kitchen table. This would happen to me all the time, sitting at my kitchen table, and I would see some underground bunker, some like rich person, and it's caving in. I have no idea who it is or why I was thinking that, but I still have that feeling that all these underground bunkers have destabilized the earth, and that any kind of movement of the earth is going to cause these bunkers to collapse upon themselves.
Well, I would say that's inevitable, but I don't know that it'll happen during while the humanity exists. It might take longer than that, unfortunately. I wish there would be a little more prompt with that for me, but I don't know if it's going to give me that kindness.
Yeah.
So, but like you were talking about, though, you're right. First of all, they seem to be very arrogant. They don't mind parading their intentions. They don't mind making villains out of themselves. They don't mind saying, eat the bugs and you will live in a pod and own nothing and like it. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
They're coming out in the open and they're strutting their stuff and they're like, there's not a damn thing you can do about it. And they might be right. Now, one of the things I know is that there's a lot of technology that's out there. They've laid the trap thick. There's thick webbing in the form of quantum networking, etc., and new technologies that are taking advantage of that. But one of the things, like you're saying, look, the bottom line is this. What are we looking at? We're looking at greed, right? When has that ever ended well? Let's say, like you were saying, let's say they are successful and they eliminate 15 out of 16. They're going to be left with all those same insufferable jackasses. They're gonna be looking at each other and smelling their stinking breath, and they're gonna hate each other eventually, and they're gonna want what each other has. And it's not gonna end. If they think that that's gonna be the end of it, that's gonna just be the beginning.
I absolutely agree, because right now what they're doing is targeting, like within the targeted, do quote unquote community, the targeted people that I know of, are highly intelligent, creative, something to offer the world, humanitarians, think out of the box. So if they were to get rid of all those people, like with psychiatric reprisal, the targeting program and stuff, they're going to be left with people like my neighbors, okay? They're going to be left with people like my neighbors, who don't think out of the box, who don't have anything to offer, this lifetime. And the deletes crave. They crave the theft of intellectual property, the theft of the joy of other people. And the people that are targeting us are bereft of any of those qualities. So they're going to be left with a bunch of losers.
Yes. But that's what they're looking for. Like I said, they're looking for a certain level of humanity when it comes to intelligence. And you and I don't fit into their plans.
And a lot of people, a lot.
The majority of the targeted, it's been pointed out that the target community is very smart.
Very smart. And in different ways. Like I'm learning, with regard to the things that you're intelligent about, compared to some of the people that are so technically adept. Like they know technology inside and out and are creating brainwave music and stuff like that. Then, of course, they're creative people that think out of the box, and then they're the people that are perceptive. They see stuff in the distance that other people can't see. It's like I spy with my little eye. Like they can find everything. They can find the little dot, like in my forest here. So
it's funny that you're talking about this. It's topical because this is the topic that I've been working on lately with in my studies. I don't know that I'm going to go ahead with it, but I think I might with a new theory on intelligence, because but I noticed when I did some research that a lot of work has been put out since 2000, and some of it is intriguing, and I should probably catch up before I reinvent the wheel again, which I'm known to do. If I don't catch up, I will just essentially reproduce the work of somebody else. I've done it again and again and again. It's a little frustrating. As a matter of fact, I just found out today that I did it again with a theory that I had. Somebody had beat me by a period of 15 years.
Oh, wow.
I know, and so I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I'm fine. Look, I have a lot of fun coming up with these things. You know, this is how I enjoy myself. I'm a nerd, man. So I don't mind it. I really don't mind it if I honestly, in the end, it's confirmation. You know what I mean? Because these things are accepted into the scientific mainstream, and I was not influenced by that. You know.
Well, it's interesting, and I'm not really a nerd at all, but I was very interested at one time in personality types, and I actually tested people when I was an HR person, like back in the day. So I put a little test out there for the people that are subscribed to my channel, but of the people who are targeted, and it was about the different personality types, and the rarest personality type is INFJ.
Wow.
And so many people.
Isn't that what was above Jesus' head when he was
Yes.
crucified? No, is it really?
Yes. It's
similar.
Well, they consider it's between 1% and 2% of the general population. They don't fit into the norm. So think about this for a minute. So let's say you're an INFJ and you move into a community and nobody gets you. They don't understand you. They don't understand your perspective. They don't like the way you look. And it's because of your personality type. It just does not fit into the norm. So you automatically look like an outsider. So many targeted people are of that personality type. That might be something that you might integrate into your future thoughts about, about how people think. Because it's not just about how people think, it's how they perceive. Right? So the INFJ's personality types perceive things differently, and they go against the grain. They're more creative. The empath, although Professor Sam Bankin says there's no such thing as an empath, he's a professor of psychiatry of narcissism and stuff. He says, oh, there's no such thing as an empath. But you speak to other narcissists, like malignant narcissists, they say, oh, yeah, we definitely go after the empaths, because they care about everybody. They're so kind. They want to help humanity. And that's the INFJ personality. Although they will not go along to get along. So...
Well, it sounds like you're right. It does actually sound like a lot of targeted individuals. Now, when I mentioned that testing, for the purposes of running tests and experiments, that's what they would want. But they've certainly branched out from there. They get petty with it. I've seen reports from a victim that you could easily find the video for on YouTube of a woman who was passed around as a party favor at the Diddy parties, and she claimed that she was on remote control, that Diddy had codes that would allow him to remote control her.
I've heard things about that testimony.
Right. So, I mean, you've got to think that the first thing I thought was, when I heard that, was if they're handing it out as party favors, then they feel pretty comfortable about their position. They feel safe at where they're at. And that's not a good sign for us.
Yes.
But then again, something that always comes to mind whenever I see this sort of arrogance from them. I mean, it's still, until the job is done, it's not done. You know what I mean? It's not done till the fat lady sings, sort of a thing. There's many a slip twixt a cup and a lip, and I wouldn't be surprised then to see that their pride be the undoing of them.
Absolutely. Now, in dealing with your anxiety, obviously the anxieties from the long-term abuse, physically, mentally, emotionally, during very critical times in your early childhood development, but also, there's the separation between the biological parents and then the adoptive parents, and everything that happened, like in utero. Let's say the mom knew that she was going to give up a child at birth, and then those feelings are, kind of synthesized into the life of the embryo, and then you're already born with a sense of anxiety because the parent wasn't, interested in having the baby for whatever reason. It could be money, whatever. So have you ever gone back to kind of see where that may have originated and deal with that anxiety at that level rather than as the symptom, as looking for the cause?
Well, a bit more. I'm involved in a 12-step group, and we sort of address fundamental aspects to our issues, causes. Not to that degree. That's more of a psychological thing. And to be honest with you, without them doing what they're doing now, I don't believe that it would exist. Like I said, I think that the targeting program breeds fearless people. So if it's not artificial, I don't think I can feel fear anymore.
Interesting.
I have confirmation on that, but I suspect that that's the case. So, but when it comes to my genetic parents, I did the DNA testing to see if I could find them, and they are smart people. So in other words, they didn't do a DNA test. So, I did find some things out about myself, and my daughter. The only blood relative I've ever seen was my daughter. She died from a fentanyl overdose a few years back.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
She had done some research and found the information she came up with that they were both college professors, and so which makes sense, considering she was very smart also. And but then she passed right afterwards, and so I wasn't able to get the information. So I mean, it is what it is. I'm fine if I never get a hold of them. When it comes to the anxiety, it's just something that spices up life, I guess. And I don't know. I won't fall asleep when I'm meeting you. I can tell you that.
Right. I hear you. Well, that's interesting that your biological parents were college professors, but I'm wondering if with your daughter with the fentanyl and that she may have been targeted. After she found out that information, they didn't want that information out.
Right. No, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I actually consider her to be a part of. I think it's a broader thing. I think the targeting is just part of it. There's an assault on general populations across the world, and targeting is just one part of it.
Yes.
Yeah, drugs is another part of it, but the targeting can influence people to want to do the drugs.
Yes.
And then my mother died from a clot. Let's just put it like that.
I hear you. Okay. And that was during 2019, 20, 21?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, gotcha. I hear you. All right. I'm trying to think what else. Do you have any siblings?
Not that I'm aware of. Yeah, not that I know of. I would have liked to have known. I don't know. But the thing about it is even if I make contact with these people, they're going to turn us against each other. So it might be best that we don't.
Well, they do. I mean, they attempt to. They attempt to, and I don't know all the ways and means that they do it. Obviously, that they can pretend to be you. They can do it subliminally. I've already told one of my, not my biological brother, my half brother. I've already told him. I said, don't be surprised if subliminally or otherwise that they try to sabotage our relationship. I mean, he's smart enough to know.
Have you ever seen City Slickers, the movie?
I have not. I mean, I think I may have a long time ago, but I don't remember it at all.
There's a part where Jack Palance, Billy Crystal asked Jack Palance if he was ever in love before. And he said once, and he described a situation in which he saw a woman in the distance, and the sun was on the other side of her, and he could see her figure as a result coming through the silhouette. And he felt like that was about as good as it's ever going to get, and he traveled on. And Billy had trouble with that because he didn't pursue it. But Jack Palance felt like that it was well enough left alone, and that's sort of the situation that I feel with my genetic family.
I hear you. I hear you, and I would imagine that a lot of adopted adult children feel the same way. I mean, unless of course kismet. You never know. Sometimes you cross paths in the strangest of positions, but
Yeah, I normally quote Shakespeare and Dickens, but today you get Jack Palance. Okay, so you never know what you're gonna
yeah,
get.
yeah. So what else would you like to share with the subscribers about the targeting program, what you've discovered, how to protect yourself, if at all possible? Is it possible to protect
Well,
yourself?
I bought one of those hats, and I got an expensive one, and it doesn't. It looks nice. I can say that. So if you're looking for a good-looking hat, I can recommend it. But if you're looking at if you're looking for something to perform other than kind of keeping people from recognizing that you didn't comb your hair that day, then you're looking in the wrong area. I don't believe that shielding works from what I've seen. I think that maybe at one point it did, but they've moved on to different technologies, and it's no longer something that's viable. Not only that, there are other available technologies that would make it, even if we're able to counter these, that would make it to where even if we're miles underground, it would still be able to get to us. I can't remember the name of it right now, but they've been preparing for this, you guys. When it comes to so no, I mean the main thing is my mom, I've mentioned this before, told me that life is 10% what happens to you, 90% how you take it, and so that's sort of how I operate. I just practice acceptance. With the things I can't change, I accept, and it leads to serenity, which is inner peace for me, and that's a difficult thing to achieve for anyone, much less a targeted individual. It's just the concepts and the precepts of the 12 steps and the Stoics, especially. You don't have to go get sober if you don't want to. You can go straight to Marcus Aurelius and get the majority of what will help you. It's just a change of thought process. The processes of thought that we're born with that come naturally to us aren't necessarily the ideal ones, and the things that we're taught growing up aren't necessarily the best either, especially not for us. And so it's up to us to go and find these things and bend them to our will.
That's a good point. That's a good point, and I know that a lot of the technology that's out there continues to change, and from what other targeted people say, and I've experienced myself, no matter what I buy, no matter how much money I spend, it may work for a few days or maybe even a couple of weeks, but then they amp up the energy to sidestep whatever it is I've purchased.
Yeah. I want to say too. I want to say a hi to my ex. She'll be watching this at some point, and I want to thank her for what she's doing. She doesn't know it, but she's targeted as well. They give her massive anxiety, and she has a lot of trouble. They made her completely not believe any of the things that was going on throughout her entire relationship. So that was very difficult. It was difficult on me and difficult on her. And now that we're separate because of the things that they did to me. There's still a bit of weirdness there, but she's agreed to do this, and I'm very grateful. I do the best that I can, again, to process acceptance, but I have to admit I'm not perfect in this particular situation.
Well, that's very fortunate that you're still in contact with your ex-girlfriend and that she's willing to listen to this and possibly comment on it. And in doing so, it may illuminate some things in her life, how she was targeted and how your relationship was targeted, and maybe come to terms with that and also heal a little bit. So we thank
Right.
her. Yeah, we thank her as well.
Yeah, and I know that because I look, there's I can't remember who said it originally, but great claims require great evidence. You know what I mean? That's not, of course, the way that it was. That's not verbatim. That's horribly coined, but you get the idea. So the claims that I made here, I didn't want to make them, you guys, but I think it's the reason that I did it was because, first of all, it's true. Second of all, she was agreed to back me up, and so I'm like, okay, well, now there's no reason for me not to. But third of all, I think it's important for me to first to update that initial document of Revelations of Method, and then also to give us an idea of how I recognize that they dated mine, because I didn't even know that they were doing it, but they were pushing me towards these theories, and I was coming up with stuff, and it went mainstream. They were taking it and using it, and so I'm all, I don't know what's going on, you know what I mean? And not like 20 years later, whatever it is, like 10 years at least, then I kind of catch on, and then I'm like, well, my first thought is, oh, all these things are happening. You guys didn't know anything. And that was false also. You know, it turns out they knew everything the whole time. Now, here's what that means. Let me get this in real fast. What that means is that they did come out with this CBI, this combination of neurons and computer chips. They released that to the public. You know, there's a public company that deals with it now. But the fact that they were able to do that back then means that this stuff was up and live, and they were using it at that time.
Yes.
You see what I mean? So that's the thing that I realized just recently. That's my most recent revelation. That CBI, that combination of brain neurons, human brain neurons, and a CPU has been in use. I believe it's been since 2012, 2014.
Now, would you be willing to share what companies you think are involved in this CBI?
I did actually write up a document on that, two of them, and I put them up. I can let me access those real fast.
Okay, yeah, no problem. No problem. That would be good.
Okay, so we have first of all, there's quantum networks. There are several. A lot of these are easily found. I would actually refer you to the documents, and maybe I can send them to you, and you can find a way to post them because they're lengthy and they have descriptions.
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay, so we'll do it that way instead.
Okay, that would be good. Yeah, so you know, a lot of people would be interested because we've got a lot of researchers, you know, that are subscribers that like to do research on this and then provide testimony and information. You know, not everybody has the time to, but there are quite a few of the subscribers that like to read the peer-reviewed articles and like to formulate things just as you have. So knowing the names of the companies that you have determined may be involved in this would be really helpful to them.
Yes, and then absolutely. I mean, that's all we have. That's the best that we have available. But of course, we're going to be data mined the whole time.
Right now, do you think that Palantir, that company Palantir that everybody's talking about now, is involved?
I'm familiar with it, and it's looking as if that a lot of people are seeing that these people that just months ago were saying that we were crazy to suggest that directed energy weapons and B2K and RNM existed at all are now saying, well, now they're rolling this out so that they can have those weapons for all of us. You know, that's a hell of a character arc in a short amount of time. You know what I mean? And I'm not bitter about it at all. I understand, but I'm grateful too. I'm grateful that the public is coming around, and they may be right. I'm grateful that we have these other eyes and minds on this because they're bouncing these ideas around, saying, "Look, watch out for this." You know what I mean? And because I haven't been watching it, I'm not familiar with Palantir. I know. To be honest with you, look, this is a situation in which I'm getting the information from non-TIs about potentially, you know, TI-related material. It's an interesting situation. You know what I mean?
Well, what happened recently, our president has given them several $1 million. I did a video on it, millions of dollars to aid in their research of artificial intelligence and data mining all of our personal information. So this goes beyond the fusion centers that are located in, you know, there are 80 of them across the United States. This is going to be a central data mining location.
Oh, that's right.
With Palantir, Keel.
NSA as well, right?
Peter Thiel is his name, is the owner.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, they just gave him, I think it was $109.75 million, without our approval, of course. You know, it was just doled out to them for this heavy surveillance project.
Right, I do remember reading about that. Now, what that means, though, is that that's an extension of the NSA.
Absolutely.
The technological update of the NSA, which is not a legal organization to begin with, and it's one of those situations. I can't remember who it was, Jefferson, that said whoever would give up freedom for the sake of safety deserves neither. And we didn't vote the NSA in either, so we can't blame ourselves, and we can't be blamed by others. But we definitely probably should have put an end to it. I was against the NSA from the very beginning. I recognized that it was come on, man. I mean, geez. You know, they're listening into our conversation, and we're not listening, and then you find out, yes, they are. We're not keeping the information, find out, yes, they are. I mean, come on. You know what I mean? It's just, that's why it's the same situation like with the elites. When they get down to each other and they're having to, they're stuck in one room together and smelling each other's stick and breath, they're going to want to kill each other.
Right.
It's the same, it's the analogy of what is it? The frog and the scorpion. The scorpion trying to get across the river, so he gets on the frog's back, and he's like, "But you're going to sting me." And he's like, "Hey, if I sting you, we're both going to die."
No, that's
right?
true.
And so the frog's like, "All right, hop on." So they get in the middle, and the scorpion stings him, and the frog's like, "What the hell's the matter with you? Now we're both going to die." And he says, "You knew I was a scorpion."
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yep. Well, it's certainly interesting. Do you have any advice to give to the targeted people out there? And do you think that in our lifetime that this program will ever end?
Well, the only advice that I would give them is the same advice I would give to myself, and that's I try to be I try to change who I am. And when I'm speaking to other TIs, I'm not saying that I'm successful at it, you guys. I'm trying to show you that I'm not just a machine here, because I think that's how I come across. And the reason why I do that happens is because I compartmentalize different parts. It's not multiple personalities. When I do my work, I get real cold and all about facts and figures and that sort of a thing, and I have little patience. And then when I deal with people, I have to switch into a different compartment, one that's about empathy and dealing with others, and that sometimes that's a difficult thing, and I'm finding it more difficult to get to that one these days. So I apologize if I've come across cold or like a machine. And I'm not. I bleed red and I have feelings. Right. And I care about the targeted community. So I guess the thing is that, I saw a thread the other day, a post that said, there are people that aren't making sense on the targeted forums and they're discrediting us. It's something along those lines. And I said, well, doesn't that sort of match the description of a people, that are being targeted by the weaponry that we're being targeted with? You know what I mean? We have to, I think, to some degree, if we're going to stay together, if there's going to be a cohesiveness, we need to have patience with each other and make room for the various symptoms that we're going to see. And some of them are going to be pretty out there. So
I agree.
Yeah, and then what was the other one? There was one other question.
Do you think that this will ever end or change or morph into something else? Will they ever admit what they're doing to targeted people?
Well, I mean, one of the problems I have with that perspective is that it's outside of the way that I normally think, because it's not within the only reason that I would ever try to think about that is as if I was looking for retribution or justice or something like that, and that's not the way that I see things. The way that I see things is that the judgment and retribution and all that is up to God. And so my job is to just make the best of what he gives me, which is significant. And I'm a very lucky man. I'm very grateful for the things that he gives me. The thing that hurts the most is to see you guys suffer. I can handle myself suffering just fine, but when I see somebody, my best friend is a targeted individual. And it hurts me so bad to know that she's as bad off as she is. It pains me. I've asked them many times to just give it all to me and leave her out of it. You know what I mean? But they won't do that. And so, do I see it coming to an end? To be honest with you, I've looked into what would cause an end to it. We're talking about EMPs, electrical outages, and other things. And then there are. Look, I'll talk about it. There's the energy that would be required to run this thing is probably substantial, and so you say, where's that going to? Well, there are ways to acquire energy that would be off the record. For example, Elon Musk has grids that can be easily used off the record, and that's just what we know about. And I'm not saying that Elon Musk is behind it, because I don't know one way or another, but he is trying to, turn us into kind of computer people. So, I mean, take it for what you will. And I don't know. That's when it comes to the end of it. I just don't tend to think along those because then there's an expectation, and then I'm not focusing in the moment.
I hear
You
you.
know.
I hear you. I hear you. In my opinion, it's only going to stop. It's not going to stop with exposure. I mean, we've had other things throughout history that claim to have stopped, like, what was going on in Nazi Germany, only to have continued here in the United States. So I don't necessarily think it's going to stop. They'll cover it up and call it something else, as they've been doing historically.
Well, we're living in an era in which cognitive dissonance reigns as well. They can own it basically and still come out unscathed because half the population will still support them and deny it.
That's true. Well, and so much of the population is still in denial of the extent that technology has taken over their lives, and how harmful it is, and what is capable.
You know, Kaczynski was a pretty smart guy.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Well, yes. Well, they only target the smart ones, right? They only target the smart ones. so I've heard.
Right.
Well, is there anything that you'd like to, leave with subscribers with on a positive note? This may be part one of part two. We probably provide an update on your revelations of method.
Right. I think we did a pretty good job covering it. I don't know. I would like to see a rejuvenation of the community, but sure, a lot of us would. I'll do the best that I can to do that, and then to be more empathetic.
Well, I appreciate that, and we all do, and we appreciate your testimony here. I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people, and for your ex-girlfriends, this is wonderful always.
Yes.
To mend fences and reveal things that may have been, there might have been a lot of uncertainty back then, and maybe you both can heal over that the end of that relationship. But thank you so much. It is November 13, 2025, interview with Kevin, and we're going to end the recording right now.